I'm assuming you guys got the
Good?
cupcakes.
All right, we're starting the
I'm pretty
Personnel
sure.
Committee meeting for the City of Green Bay on May 13th, 2025. Roll call, Alder Grant. Alder Grant.
Oh, sorry, present.
Alder Hinkvis.
Present.
Alder Johnson. And Alder Galvin is here. I'll entertain a motion on the agenda.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I'll entertain a motion on the minutes.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
That passes unanimously. On to regular business for consideration with possible action on the request to fill the following positions and all subsequent vacancies resulting from internal transfers. Item A is a safety coordinator.
Move to approve. Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
That passes unanimously. Number 2, for consideration and possible action regarding the Common Council vacancy application process and requirements for applicants before the Common Council appointment. This is Alder Johnson's item.
Well, I mean, it's not every day the city has a vacancy in this, and so I wanted, this is a member of our body, we have to appoint them, so I wanted us to have some input on it. I know I asked for this to be put on the committee several months ago. It never appeared, and so I had a conversation with Chief Faulds, and I was informed that due to the timing of the resignation, that there wasn't enough time for this to go through council. I still submitted the communication. I know Alder Weary submitted a resignation date of May 16th, so I guess in my mind, we had 14 days. This is how long to post it, and that would still give it enough time to come through council and still make an appointment within 30 days if we did it at the last meeting in June. I was informed that staff was going to proceed and post it anyway, so I believe it's been posted, and it's expected to come to the June 9th meeting, but I want to make sure that we still have an opportunity to weigh in on anything that we want. So even though this has been talked about for several months, so that's certainly been out there, but I wanted an application, I guess, that was something more than just give us your name and employer, right? Where when people campaign, they have to tell us more than that. They go door to door, they write responses to questionnaires, and I think we're probably owed at least the same level of courtesy to make an informed decision. And so my hope is, even though they proceeded with the process, as of right now, the application does not require any type of questions. My hope is that we can still require that of candidates before they appear before council at that June 9th meeting. So that's why I still submitted the communication, and I don't know if staff would want to chime in on that at all, if I've mischaracterized anything, or if I'm mischaracterizing, I guess, our ability to still require responses. So I don't know if that's you, Brian, or Attorney Kochar.
I can answer. Sure, so I gave you all just a couple of examples of questions based on your request, Alder Johnson. So a couple of options. Yes, the notice has been posted and will remain open when we get candidates for the 30-day period that's required by state law. But I gave you 2 sets of questions. One's an example. They're both examples from municipalities that have done this recently. We did sort of a poll of a number of municipalities that have had alder vacancies. Very similar processes to ours, what we have now with the notice. One set of questions, and this will be in the minutes, I apologize that it wasn't provided ahead of time. I only just got one of these a little while ago. So one example was a committee of the whole proceeding prior to the normal council meeting. So we could potentially do a committee of the whole if you want to do a more robust interview and ask questions. The other one is questions that were provided to the list of final candidates ahead of time to just prepare to then present at the meeting or be asked. So there's sort of a combination of things we could do. Like I said, the interview process at a committee of the whole proceeding, very similar to what we had planned to do at council with them, with candidates having an opportunity to present, and then you all can ask the questions. We can have a determined list of questions. You all can ask questions at the meeting. So there's certainly a couple of options, as you said, in terms of informing the list of questions or requests of the candidates.
Yeah, and I think because, again, I wasn't necessarily, I guess I thought we were going to have it until the next June meeting, right? I don't know how that position got changed to post right away, but it's, so I wasn't necessarily prepared to have questions. I appreciate this as a starting point. I know I did put out a communication, and I'm receiving some really good feedback about some questions that we could ask as well, which I haven't had a time to digest yet.
Sure.
Sorry, not communication to a committee. communication to the public. So maybe where I want to start is just a baseline understanding or desire, I guess, of the committee that we could recommend to council that I could work with you, Attorney Cochart, and present something to council at the council meeting, but the understanding here is that we want applicants to provide written responses to something. So I think if there's consensus around that, then maybe we can work together to present the list of questions at the council meeting. Would that be? Because I don't want to react to it, and I don't want this to be a working committee where we're trying to fight over what questions to ask. So I want to offer that up as a suggestion, see what the committee members think.
When does the window close again?
It's 30 days from the date of posting, so I think it's like June 7th or thereabouts. It was posted on May 7th, 6th. I can double check that. But this obviously in reporting out to the personnel committee, this will go on council, so if you want to pull it and have a further discussion with the entire council, we can in terms of establishing what the later process will be. But again, most of the municipalities that I surveyed didn't have any questions until just sort of a free-form question at the council meeting, but these were two examples, one the committee of the whole process and one where they were sent ahead of time, that I thought were more in line with what you were asking for. So
Yeah, and this is part of it. Think of this as a two-pronged approach, right? Because I know in the email that went out to council, the attorney had outlined recommendation, right, that each person be able to present for 10 minutes, and we could ask questions after that. So part of it is I would like to see
Yes.
written responses, and then part of it is I want us to have a discussion around how we want to conduct the council meeting. Now, has that already been published that they're going to give 10-minute presentations? And
No, that was just an email just to
Okay.
you all, so that's not.
okay, so there's no expectation with applicants right now.
And I think that was just a planned recommendation for proceeding in terms of how the candidates would be presented on the agenda. I think that process is pretty specific, that our final candidates would be on the agenda at that time, and that would be the first opportunity that their names would be made public. Obviously, I think I said in that email as well to you all that if, for some reason there's like a double-digit number, we'll have to think of some additional processes,
Right.
but that was the anticipation based on just a few applicants that we could handle that. So a lot of that is still to be determined and won't be finalized, obviously, until you all provide some additional input or until the agenda for that specific meeting is published. And we obviously have one council meeting in between if you want to discuss further next week. Or we can do it directly too, certainly as a council president, have some say over that process, especially a committee of the whole proceeding.
So if it's published right now, the process would be somebody would walk into the clerk's office, and do they have to take out something? Like a normal applicant? If they were running for office?
Sure, the notice is published because state law requires a notice that we have a vacancy, and there's an electronic form. I think someone could provide it in person if they'd like to, or paper copy it to the clerk's office. But there's an electronic process, and what state law requires is that form, much like you all had to complete with the 20 signatures of electors in the district, and that has to be submitted to the clerk's office by the deadline, as well as that completed online form.
Okay, so right now, there is nothing to communicate to the applicant, Brian, exactly what you're talking about.
No. And what is that deadline?
It's 30 days after the notice was published, so I think it says that it's June 6th.
June
So
6th
it was
is that
published
Friday?
May 7th, it's either June 5th or 6th, I have to double check, but it's 30 days from publication, which was May 7th.
So we won't know until the actual date, who's to be able to communicate with them?
On the closing date, yes, that is true, yep, until the deadline.
And then we would have to
won't
ask them to
established
carry
list
those
of
questions.
candidates.
Yeah, so June 10th is
Like 3 days
the,
later.
yeah, I mean, this is why I wanted it. at the
Wait,
next meeting.
Are you anticipating
Can we
June
move?
10th as
Yeah,
the
can you move?
council meeting where we would then make our decision?
Certainly where the candidates would be presented.
And then we could make our decision at the June 24th date?
Well, it's really, it depends on the vote, but they will be presented as candidates to fill the appointment at the meeting immediately preceding the close of the notice period. That's what state law requires. It's you hear from the candidates at the meeting. I say that because it's up to you all, because obviously if you don't select a candidate, it could go to the next meeting or no candidate. I mean, there's several things to consider.
I guess it just seems, if they're handing it in on June 6th, which is a Friday, no one's here from noon on. We are not going to get anything notified till June 9th, the day before the council meeting, at which point we'll read through if they have any prepared material for us. And then, boom, we're right at it on the 10th.
But they won't have anything prepared because they've not been told to prepare anything.
So
Right.
if you do want questions ahead of time, and you want them to submit something to be published with the agenda packet as an example, we could certainly, if we finalize those in the next week, we can certainly send it to anybody who's submitted already, or update the notice that says, please include this. I think that's easily done. To both send it to the current candidates or the candidates that are pending, plus, update it for anybody who hasn't yet applied but intends to.
But how do you know who those candidates are? If
It's
they
an
can-
electronic submission, so the clerk's
Yeah,
office
we
who
just
receives
saw
that, the list is available. So if you applied yesterday, your name's on the list. If you haven't applied yet, you would see the notice and then apply at a later date.
But part of the problem though, right, is if somebody turns it in tomorrow, now they've got until June 10th to prepare responses. If somebody turns it in on June 6th, they've got 3 days.
We could update the notice. We could do both at the same time. So I don't think there would be an unfair advantage if you both emailed the current candidates and updated the posting at the same time.
So we can add this to the posting online. Is that what you're
If you
saying?
have a finalized list of questions that you would like to be asked, we potentially do that, yes.
It just seems like awful rushed. And like Alder Johnson said before, candidates who are running for office have time to formulate opinions and thoughts on concerns of the community. And I mean, I have, granted, it's not my district, but this affects everybody in the city who's appointed. And I just think it's fair for, that somehow we should have had more of a bubble in which, some of these things could have been addressed. It seems very rushed to me.
Yeah, and I apologize that you feel that way. I think one of the things, like I said, state law, I know Alder Johnson mentioned the 14-day notice period, the no more than 30 days, and the immediate meeting after. That's specified by state law, presumably for sort of the public policy interest in having this position filled and not leaving it vacant, although council can decide to leave it vacant if you choose. That's another avenue available under state law. But the prescriptive process, other than obviously the notice, Alder Johnson is correct. We potentially could have awaited 14 days and from the May 16th date, but Alder Weary also could have provided his resignation ahead of the meeting when we were operating under the assumption he was resigning effective on the council date. When I spoke to him the day before, he had said it would be the following Friday, and then at the meeting, he submitted his resignation for the Friday after. So, not to his responsibility.
So
at
go
all
by
for
state
this.
statute is what's kind of regulating how this
Yes,
thing
other
is
than the
run.
14-day notice period, the 30-day maximum period of open for posting is in state law, as is the meeting immediately after. But again, you don't necessarily have to appoint a candidate at that meeting, but that's the first opportunity for the candidates to be heard. Council can also decide to leave the position vacant, hold a special election, or appoint someone to fill the position. Those are the options available under state law.
Okay. 'Cause again, one of my concerns is the recent Green Bay School Board issue that's come up, where you have a candidate that listed an address that turned out to not to be an address that took over a year to find out, and you have all the turmoil that goes with that. And so I'm just wondering, are these applications going to be vetted prior to the council meeting to make sure they're accurate, that the signatures are accurate? Or do we take it on their word?
Well, just like other candidates, like you all for office, you have to submit the form with the 20 electors. The fact that to verify you're an elector of that district, District 8, that would be done likely by the clerk's office to determine that you, in fact, live in that district, you're a qualified elector, the 20 people who've signed that have signed your petition are as well. I think that's a usual process, so I think the same process would take place. I don't do that myself, so I don't want to overspeak for the process that the clerk handles, but it's a fairly similar process as the same form is required.
And will the clerk have enough time to vet this on Monday? Because it's Monday, Tuesday, boom, we're there.
I believe so. We contemplated the timeline when this was posted. But again, we were operating with a sort of general idea that there's just going to be a few candidates. If there are a lot, we probably would have to take that into consideration.
Have we done a press release on this?
Yes, I believe the same day it was posted, well, to the extent the press release went out, the clerk sort of noted that it would be posted, and it's like a internal, or the release is on our website.
And did we tell candidates they had to submit 20 signatures, or did we tell them 20 to 40 as other candidates are told? And the reason that's important is because if they're told 20 and they turn in 20 and someone challenges one and now they're off the ballot,
I think
even
the
though.
official, the official notice is 20, that's what's required. I can double check what the notice says, but it does say 20 because that's what's required.
Right, and again, that's what's required, but when you run as a candidate, you're still told, right, no less than 20, no more than 40, so that way if you have a signature that's tossed, you're not ineligible. And that's why I'm a little concerned if we're saying turn in 20, right, and that's what they do, and
And one-
It's
someone
happened.
challenges one, and that's all it takes, right? And would they be tossed from consideration? Is it the same test?
I think that's probably a question for the review of the clerk's office. I hadn't contemplated that ahead of time, but I could get that answer for you by Tuesday in terms of what challenging the signature, challenging the electors that provide a signature.
Alder Galvin.
Yeah, Alder Eck.
I feel like just to allow enough time for the process that we should really consider having a special meeting, as you had suggested as a possible alternative,
Or can we choose the 24th?
for
Or choose the
the,
24th.
you know, a special meeting, just, or not committee, but, you know, full council meeting to determine the position, or to vote on the position. It allows us enough time to ask all those questions we want to ask. I mean, yes, we can get them in advance, but I think you always get a better idea if you're asking in person and hearing it right there, directly from them. A thought.
It seems like we all agree we'd like to get the questions beforehand, because it's not only the answers, but also, you know, the ability to communicate, the ability to write, and you really get to understand a person that way. So to me, it's another part of that whole interview process.
Well, we'll have a
But
chance
normally
to
you
ask
do it verbally
addition.
in person.
Well, we
Right.
will have a chance to ask additional questions if we choose to. So I think I would like almost a mix, an opportunity to have a few ahead of time so that we have time to digest it, read through it. I don't want to have, I mean, some answers could be lengthy, and I want time to be able to understand it. And then we have an opportunity to question in person if we want to elaborate on something, or additional questions would be my opinion.
And even, we
I
had
agree with that.
a conversation, Attorney and I did earlier today, where, you know, at least there's one other city, I think, that would sequester people so that they couldn't hear, right, the presentations. And then I suggested, could you even do it like more like a debate, right, where you have questions and you rotate in turns. And at the end of the day, you have one person that applies, right? I mean, you could have 20 that apply. You know? So that's, I'm going to offer up a suggestion, right, which is let the application process be posted. You can't undo that, right? So let that unfold at our next council meeting, or not our next one, at the June council meeting, that first one, June 10th, that we basically, the candidates are presented to us, and then from there we decide. If there's 20 people, we're not going to invite 20 people in for presentations. So at that meeting is when we decide who we want to invite back for an interview at the June 24th
And that's when we
meeting.
make our decision.
And then at the June 10th meeting is when we would present the written questions and say, have these ready by the Friday before the council meeting when the packet's published. So, just a suggestion.
Clarifying,
Alder
can
Eck.
you say that again? Because are you saying it's your personnel committee to make the decisions?
I'm saying
based on
applicants would be presented to the June 10th meeting, okay?
The personnel?
Council.
No,
Council
council.
Okay, just be
meeting.
more specific.
Yep.
Because I want to.
And then if there's, and at that meeting is when we decide who would be invited back to give a presentation and to complete the questions at the June 24th meeting. Because again, if you have 3 people, great, right? No problem. If you've got 20 people, you're gonna have them all present? And then
Okay,
this
no
gives
problem
us,
with that.
then this gives us the time to come up with the questions, right? It gives us the time that we all wanted to come up with the questions and to talk about what process we want to create for this. I mean, I submitted, again, when it didn't show up on personnel, I did submit the communication to at least get it on here today, but unfortunately, it was decided, I don't know who ultimately made that choice, but it was decided that we were still just going to forge ahead and publish this.
But if there's 20 people, that's where I say that would be a good idea to have a special meeting for it.
It could be, could very well be. But we'll know that, we won't
We'll know
know
that
that until
on
that June 10th meeting.
Yeah.
Is there any issues legally with that?
So let me read you what the, well, if you want to refer yourselves to our ordinance, so state law is fairly sort of vague on the actual process, but sets forth the authority. And then we have an ordinance in place, which is section 2-E2, which is the 14 days we already talked about. It says an applicant must submit the signatures of 20 qualified electors from within the vacant district supporting the candidacy of the applicant. Applicants must submit applications and signatures to the city clerk within 30 days of the initial advertisement of vacancy. Thereafter, at the next regular meeting of the Common Council, all qualified applicants shall be allowed time to make a presentation regarding their qualifications to the council. The Common Council shall then, by majority vote, decide who will fill the vacancy.
I guess the answer is no.
Well, I think that's why I was perhaps leaning towards the recommendation, which I think maybe Alder Grant had and been mentioning before, is the committee of the whole process ahead of council, where you can have your set questions and you can do sort of an interview process and then carry that forward to council. I mean, you can do it during the council meeting as well. The sequestration item that Alder Johnson mentioned was more of a sort of a formal interview that happened just ahead of council, because obviously the council meeting will have other business. And then it was more just kind of a final deliberation and vote during the meeting.
Suggestion that I made, would that be in conflict with ordinance? Well, you know, I'll make the motion
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah, you can. I think maybe it would be best if I provide you a more detailed response by our meeting on Tuesday when this is considered for the report, or in the interim, because I think what you're sort of considering, you know, I can't say that the council has to vote to appoint someone that day. It's obviously it's your choice to vote and to decide to appoint someone. That's what the ordinance says, but there are many reasons why you all decide to hold items, why you carry them over to the next meeting. I'm not sure the list of things that would be out of order, but that's certainly what's
Okay.
prescribed.
All right, so
I'm going to make a motion to refer this to staff to seek input from all alders and finalize a set of suggested questions to be brought back, and that applicants will be presented at the June 10th meeting, at which time finalists will be selected to present at the June 24th meeting.
Second.
for discussion,
Excuse me. Can we update the posting though to say 20 to 40 signatures? Just for clarification.
If you want to, I think we could potentially update that. Again, the ordinance says signatures of 20 qualified electors. I think there's some, to some extent, I do think candidates probably take that upon themselves if they don't have qualified electors signed. But if we want to add a note, I don't necessarily think that's contrary to what the ordinance prescribes, that you could just say, note, you can submit more for that purpose.
Or up to 40?
Yeah, I would say up to 40, because if you say qualified, people might sign and every single one of them is qualified and they put the wrong date in. And the date under them is before their date, and guess what? That signature goes out. So,
But
I
that's why
mean,
you can't
it's
say up to
just.
40, you still need a minimum of 20. So you have to say
Yeah,
20 to
Right.
40.
Many-
Up to
20 to 40.
20, no more than 40.
Right.
So I would definitely recommend, do we have to make a motion to make that change, or?
I think we
make
just
it part
direct
of
staff.
finance. You can direct
Yeah.
staff. yeah.
Okay.
She's shaking her head no, she'll just do it, right? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
But we should maybe look at an ordinance change for the future.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
So, for discussion on Alder Johnson's motion.
I'm
Any
good.
discussion? Alder Heck?
No.
All right. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed?
Is there
That
a
passes
second?
unanimously.
Yeah, I second it. Mhm.
All right, that's it. Our next meeting is June 3rd, 2025. We are
Adjourned.
adjourned.
Second.
Yeah, motion adjourned. Yep, all in favor?
Aye.
And that passes unanimously.
Do you have to approve? Oh, I have. knows how many farms tomorrow.